This is reading books for veterans that suffer from PTSD, depression. We're trying to go live, having a few technical difficulties. So just take the deepest breath of the day. Hold it for 10, not 11. 10, not 9 seconds. He actually took the deepest breath of the day. Would you look at that? He didn't just say it. He did it. Sorry, YouTube. I think I'm going to have to pass this time, but I don't think I want to sign up for a YouTube subscription. But all I'm trying to do is just create content. And it doesn't always work. Rabbona Shalom. Also, I'm using AI wearables. Why, you may ask? Well, why not? Ooh. Okay, I'm also publishing this on Instagram underneath John Kitover book. Can you believe it? We're on all these platforms. And don't forget to use your AI wearable. If you got it, put it on, turn it on. It's a chest cam, just like what the cops got. Because why not? And if you got your Ray-Ban, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg Meta glasses, we'll put those on too. Why not? Something happened in that politically correct room yesterday. Patty had like an emotional breakdown. She like created her own room, and the title was like, "You did it to me again, bitch. Now you blocked for life." Something like that. That was the title of her room. And I quickly created like a short of her setting it up. It was so funny. I don't know who the beef is with, but is it pathetic that I think that I'm like entertained by little beefs here on Clubhouse? Okay, this is Anne Rand, everybody. We're live on 3, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. Oh my God, over 30 phones. Rabbona Shalom. I'm going to prove to you right now, once and for all, I'm not an R word. Here we go. Page 54, Ayn Rand. The Art of Selfishness. The Virtue of Selfishness. Whoops. Since men are born, tabula rasa, both cognitively and morally, a rational man regards strangers as innocent until proved guilty, grants them that initial goodwill in the name of the human potential. After that, he judges them according to the moral characters they have actualized. If he finds them guilty of major evils, his goodwill is replaced by contempt and moral condemnation. If one values human life, one cannot value its destroyers. If he finds them to be virtuous, he grants them personal, individual value and appreciation in proportion to their virtues. It is on the ground of that generalized goodwill and respect for the value of human life that one helps strangers in an emergency, and only in an emergency. It is important to differentiate between the rules of conduct in an emergency situation and the rules of conduct in the normal conditions of human existence. This does not mean a double standard of morality. The standard and the basic principles remain the same. but their application to either case requires precise definitions. An emergency is an unchosen, unexpected event, limited in time, that creates conditions under which human survival is impossible, such as a flood, an earthquake, a fire, a shipwreck. In an emergency situation, man's primary goal is to combat the disaster, escape the danger, and restore normal conditions to reach dry land to put out the fire. By normal conditions, I mean metaphysically normal, normal in the nature of things, and appropriate to human existence. Men can live on land, but not in water or in a raging fire. Since men are not omnipotent, it is metaphysically possible for unseeable disasters to strike them, in which case their only task is to return to those conditions under which their lives can continue by its nature. An emergency situation is temporary. If it were to last, men would perish. It is only in emergency situations that one should volunteer to help strangers. If it is in one's power. For instance, a man who values human life and is caught in a shipwreck should help to save his fellow passengers, though not at the expense of his own life. But this does not mean that after they all reach shore, he should devote his efforts to saving his fellow passengers from poverty, ignorance, neurosis, or whatever other troubles they might have. Nor does it mean that he should spend his life sailing the seven seas in search of shipwrecked victims to save. Nor does it mean he should spend his life listening to R words on Clubhouse talk about R word things all the day long. Or to take an example that can occur in everyday life. Suppose one hears that the man next door is ill and penniless. Illness and poverty are not metaphysical emergencies. They are part of the normal risks of existence. But since the man is temporarily helpless, one may bring him food and medicine, if one can afford it, as an act of goodwill. Not of duty, but one may raise a fund among the neighbors to help him out. But this does not mean that one must support him from then on, nor that one must spend one's life looking for starving men to help. In the normal conditions of existence, man has to choose his goals, project them in time, pursue them, and achieve them by his own effort. He cannot do it if his goals are at the mercy of, and must be sacrificed to any misfortune happening to others. He cannot live his life by the guidance of rules applicable only to conditions under which human survival is impossible. The principle that one should help men in an emergency cannot be extended to regard all human suffering as an emergency, and to turn the misfortune of some into a first mortgage on the lives of others. Poverty, ignorance, illness, and other problems of that kind are not metaphysical emergencies. By the metaphysical nature of man and of existence, man has to maintain his life by his own effort. The values he needs, such as wealth or knowledge, are not given to him automatically. He has to come on Clubhouse and read a book. The values, man has to maintain his life by his own effort. That means coming on Clubhouse, and you know what? Maybe I'm going to read a book today. Maybe, maybe not. By the metaphysical nature of man and of existence, man has to maintain his life by his own effort. That's right, he's got to come on Clubhouse and read a book sometime instead of just talking, just randomly. How are you feeling today, Pepe? That's the problem with the Pepe show. It's watching Pepe process his emotions for hours, struggling not to go the hard R word, but then he breaks. Okay, continuing on the ethics of emergencies, the virtue of selfishness by Ayn Rand, page 55. By the metaphysical nature of man and of existence, man has to maintain his life by his own effort. Oh my God, maybe he's got to come on Clubhouse to read a book every once in a while. The values he needs, such as wealth or knowledge, are not given to him automatically. Oh my God, he's got to pick up a book in what's called the left hand, or you got to use your right hand to use a book. I think a lot of people use their right hand for other things quite regularly. By the metaphysical nature of man and of existence, man has to maintain his life by his own effort. Oh my God, he's got to pick up a book. The values he needs, such as wealth or knowledge, oh my God, he's got to read a book every once in a while, are not given to him automatically as a gift of nature, but have to be discovered and achieved by his own thinking and work. One's sole obligation toward others in this respect is to maintain a social system that leaves men free to achieve, to gain, and to keep their values. Every code of ethics is based on and derived from a metaphysics, that is, from a theory about the fundamental nature of the universe, in which man lives and acts. The altruist ethics is based on a malevolent universe. Metaphysics on the theory that man, by his very nature, is helpless and doomed, that success, happiness, achievement are impossible to him, that emergencies, disasters, catastrophes are the norm of his life, and that his primary goal is to combat them. Is the simplest empirical refutation of that metaphysics is evidence of the fact that the material universe is not inimical to man, and that catastrophes are the exception, not the rule of his existence. Observe the fortunes made by insurance companies. Observe also that the advocates of altruism are unable to base their ethics on any facts of man's normal existence, that they always offer lifeboat situations as examples from which to derive the rules of moral conduct. What should you do if you and another man are in a lifeboat that can carry only one? The fact is that men do not live in lifeboats, and that a lifeboat is not a place on which to base one's metaphysics. The moral purpose of man's life is the achievement of his own happiness. This does not mean that he is indifferent to all men, that human life is of no value to him, and that he has no reason to help others in an emergency. But it does mean that he does not subordinate his life to the welfare of others. That he does not sacrifice himself to their needs. That the relief of their suffering is not his primary concern. That any help he gives is an exception, not a rule, an act of generosity, not of moral duty that is marginal and incidental. As disasters are marginal and incidental in the course of human existence, and that values, not disasters, are the goal, the first concern, and the motive power of his life. February 1963. Ayn Rand, The Virtue of Selfishness. The Ethics of Emergencies. Moving on to Chapter 4, The Conflicts of Men's Interests by Ayn Rand. Read by mayoral candidate John Kitover. It is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. Rabono Shalom, prove to me you are not an R word. Some students of objectivism find it difficult to grasp the objectivist principle that there are no conflicts of interest among rational men. Chapter number 4, the conflicts of men's interests. A typical question runs as follows. Suppose two men apply for the same job. Only one of them can be hired. Isn't this an instance of a conflict of interests? And isn't the benefit of one man achieved at the price of the sacrifice of the other? There are 4 interrelated considerations which are involved in a rational man's view of his interests, but which are ignored or evaded in the above question and in all similar approaches to the issue. I shall designate these 4 as A, reality, B, context, C, responsibility, D, effort. A, reality. The term interest is a wide abstraction that covers the entire field of ethics. It includes the issues of man's values, his desires, his goals, and their actual achievement in reality. A man's interests depend on the kind of goals he chooses to pursue. His choice of goals depends on his desires. His desires depend on his values. And for a rational man, his values depend on the judgment of his mind. Desires or feelings of emotions or wishes or whims are not tools of cognition. They are not a valid standard of value nor a valid criterion of man's interests. The mere fact that a man desires something does not constitute a proof that the object of his desire is good, nor that its achievement is actually to his interest. To claim that a man's interests are sacrificed whenever a desire of his is frustrated is to hold a subjectivist view of man's values and interests, which means to believe that it is proper, moral, and possible for man to achieve his goals regardless of whether they contradict the facts of reality or not, which means to hold an irrational or mystical view of existence, which means to deserve no further consideration. In choosing his goals, the specific values he seeks to gain and or keep, a rational man is guided by his thinking, by a process of reason, not by his feelings or desires. He does not regard desires as irreducible primaries, as the given which he is destined irresistibly to pursue. He does not regard because I want it, or because I feel like it, as a sufficient cause and validation of his actions. He chooses and or identifies his desires by a process of reason, and he does not act to achieve a desire until and unless he is able rationally to validate it in the full context of his knowledge. And of his other values and goals, he does not act until he is able to say, I want it because it is right. The law of identity, A is A, is a rational man's paramount consideration in the process of determining his interests. He knows that the contradictory is the impossible, that a contradiction cannot be achieved in reality, and that the attempt to achieve it can lead only to disaster and destruction. Therefore, he does not permit himself to hold contradictory values, to pursue contradictory goals, or to imagine that the pursuit of a contradiction can ever be to his interest. Only an irrationalist or mystic or subjectivist, in which category I place all those who regard faith, feelings, or desires as man's standard of value, exists in a perpetual conflict of interests. Not only do his alleged interests clash with those of other men, but they clash also with one another. No one finds it difficult to dismiss from philosophical consideration the problem of a man who wails that life entraps him in an irreconcilable conflict because he cannot eat his cake and have it too. That problem does not acquire intellectual validity by being expanded to involve more than cake, whether one expands it to the whole universe, as in the doctrines of existentialism, or only to a few random whims and evasions, as in most people's views of their interests. When a person reaches the stage of claiming that man's interests conflict with reality, the concept interests ceases to be meaningful, and his problem ceases to be philosophical and becomes psychological. B. Context. Just as a rational man does not hold any conviction out of context, that is, without relating it to the rest of his knowledge and resolving any possible contradictions, so he does not hold or pursue any desire out of context, and he does not judge what is or is not to his interest out of context, on the range of any given moment. Context dropping is one of the chief psychological tools of evasion. In regard to one's desires, there are two major ways of context dropping: the issues of range and means. A rational man sees his interest in terms of a lifetime and selects his goals accordingly. This does not mean that he has to be omniscient, infallible, or clairvoyant. It means that he does not live his life short range. He does not drift like a bum, pushed by the spur of the moment. It means that he does not regard any moment as cut off from the context of the rest of his life, that he allows no conflicts, contradictions between his short range and long range interests. He does not become his own destroyer by pursuing a desire today which wipes out all his values tomorrow. A rational man does not indulge in wistful longings for ends divorced from means. He does not hold a desire without knowing or learning, and considering the means by which it is to be achieved, since he knows that nature does not provide man with the automatic satisfaction of his desires, that a man's goals or values have to be achieved by his own effort, that the lives and efforts of other men are not his property, and are not there to serve his wishes. A rational man never holds a desire or pursues a goal which cannot be achieved directly or indirectly by his own effort. It is with a proper understanding of this indirectly that the crucial social issue begins. Living in a society instead of on a desert island does not relieve a man of the responsibility of supporting his own life. The only difference is that he supports his life by trading his products or services for the products or services of others. And in this process of trade, a rational man does not seek or desire any more or any less than his own effort can earn. What determines his earnings? The free market, that is, voluntary choice and judgment of the men who are willing to trade him the effort in return. While a man trades with others, he is counting explicitly or implicitly on the rationality, that is, on the ability to recognize the objective value of his work. A trade based on any other premise is a con game or a fraud. Thus, when a rational man pursues a goal in a free society, he does not place himself at the mercy of whims, the favors or the prejudices of others. He depends on nothing but his own effort, directly, for doing objectively valuable work. Indirectly, through the objective evaluation of his work by others. It is in this sense that a rational man never holds a desire or pursues a goal which cannot be achieved by his own effort. He trades value for value. He never seeks or desires the unearned. If he undertakes to achieve a goal that requires the cooperation of many people, he never counts on anything but his own ability to persuade them and their voluntary agreement. Needless to say, a rational man never distorts or corrupts his own standards and judgment in order to appeal to the irrationality, stupidity, or dishonesty of others. He knows that such a course is suicidal. He knows that one's only practical chance to achieve any degree of success or anything humanely desirable lies in dealing with those who are rational, whether they are many of them or few. If any given set of circumstances, any victory is possible at all, it is only reason that can win it. And in a free society, no matter how hard the struggle might be, it is reason that ultimately wins. Since he never drops the context of the issues he deals with, a rational man accepts the struggle as to his interest, because he knows that freedom is to his interest. He knows that the struggle to achieve his values includes the possibility of defeat. He knows also that there is no alternative and no automatic guarantee of success for man's effort, neither in dealing with nature nor with other men. So he does not judge his interests by any particular defeat, nor by the range of any particular moment. He lives and judges long range, and he assumes the full responsibility of knowing what conditions are necessary for the achievement of his goals. Number C, responsibility. The last in the particular form of intellectual responsibility that most people evade. That evasion is the major cause of their frustrations and defeats. Most people hold their desires without any context whatever, as ends hanging in a foggy vacuum, the fog hiding any concept of means. They rouse themselves mentally only long enough to utter an "I wish" and stop there, and wait as if the rest were up to some unknown power. What they evade is the responsibility of judging the social world. They take the world as the given. A world I never made is the deepest essence of their attitude. And they seek only to adjust themselves uncritically to the incomprehensible requirements of those unknowable others who did make the world, whoever those might be. But humility and presumptuousness are two sides of the same psychological medal. In the willingness to throw oneself blindly on the mercy of others, there is the implicit privilege of making blind demands on one's masters. There are countless ways in which this sort of metaphysical humility reveals itself. For instance, there is the man who wishes to be rich, but never thinks of discovering what means, actions, and conditions are required to achieve wealth. Who is he to judge? He never made the world, and nobody gave him a break. There is the girl who wishes to be loved, but never thinks of discovering what love is, what values it requires, and whether she possesses any virtues to be loved for. Who is she to judge? Love, she feels, is an inexplicable favor, so she merely longs for it, feeling that somebody has deprived her of her share in the distribution of favors. There are the parents who suffer deeply and genuinely because their son or daughter does not love them, and who simultaneously ignore, oppose, or attempt to destroy everything they know of their son's convictions, values, and goals, never thinking of the connection between these two facts, never making an attempt to understand their son. The world they never made and dare not challenge has told them that children love parents automatically. There is the man who wants a job, but never thinks of discovering what qualifications the job requires or what constitutes doing one's work well. Who is he to judge? He never made the world. Somebody owes him a living. How? Somehow. A European architect of my acquaintance was talking one day of his trip to Puerto Rico. He described with great indignation at the universe at large squalor of the Puerto Ricans' living conditions. Then he described what wonders modern housing could do for them, which he had daydreamed in detail, including electric refrigerators and tiled bathrooms. I asked, who would pay for it? He answered in a faintly offended, almost huffy tone of voice. Oh, that's not for me to worry about. An architect's task is only to project what should be done. Let somebody else think about the money. That is the psychology from which all social reforms or welfare states or noble experiments or the destruction of the world have come. In dropping the responsibility for one's own interests and life, one drops the responsibility of ever having to consider the interests and lives of others, and those others who are somehow to provide the satisfaction of one's desires. Whoever allows us somehow into his view of the means by which his desires are to be achieved is guilty of that metaphysical humility which psychologically is the premise of a parasite. As Nathaniel Brandon pointed out in a lecture, somehow always means somebody. D for effort. Since a rational man knows that man must achieve his goals by his own effort, he knows that neither wealth nor jobs nor any human values exist in a given limited static quantity, waiting to be divided. He knows that all benefits have to be produced, that the gain of one man does not represent the loss of another, that a man's achievement is not earned at the expense of those who have not achieved it. Therefore, he never imagines that he has any sort of unearned, unilateral claim on any human being, and he never leaves his interests at the mercy of any one person or single specific concrete. He may need clients, but not any one particular customer. He may need a job, but not any one particular job. If he encounters competition, he either meets it or chooses another line of work. There is no job so slow that a better, more skillful performance of it would pass unnoticed and unappreciated. Not in a free society. Ask any office manager. It is only the passive, parasitical representatives of the humility metaphysics school who regard any competitor as a threat, because the thought of earning one's position by personal merit is not part of their view of life. They regard themselves as interchangeable mediocrities who have nothing to offer and who fight in a static universe for someone's costless favor. A rational man knows that one does not live by means of luck, breaks, favors, that there is no such thing as an only chance, a single opportunity, and that this is guaranteed precisely by the existence of competition. He does not regard any concrete, specific goal or value as irreplaceable. He knows that only persons are irreplaceable, only those one loves. He knows that there are no conflicts of interest among rational men, even in the issue of love, like any other value. Love is not a static quantity to be divided, but an unlimited response to be earned. The love for one friend is not a threat to the love for another, and neither is the love for the various members of one's family, assuming they have earned it. The most exclusive form, romantic love, is not an issue of competition. If two men are in love with the same woman, what she feels for either of them is not determined by what she feels for the other and is not taken away from him. If she chooses one of them, the loser could not have had what the winner has earned. It is only among the irrational, emotion-motivated persons whose love is divorced from any standards of value. The chance rivalries, accidental conflicts, blind choices prevail. But then whoever wins does not win much. Among the emotion-driven, neither love nor any other emotion has any meaning. Such in brief essence are the four major considerations involved in a rational man's view of his interests. Now let us return to the question originally asked about the two men applying for the same job, and observe in what manner it ignores or opposes these four considerations. A. Reality. The mere fact that two men desire the same job does not constitute proof that either of them is entitled to it or deserves it, and that his interests are damaged if he does not obtain it. B. Context. Both men should know that if they desire a job, the goal is made possible only by the existence of a business concern able to provide employment. That business concern requires the availability of more than one applicant for any job. That if only one applicant existed, he would not obtain the job, because the business concern would have to close its doors. And that their competition for the job is to their interest, even though one of them will lose in that particular encounter. C. Responsibility. Neither man has the moral right to declare that he doesn't want to consider all those things. He just wants a job. He is not entitled to any desire or any interest without knowledge of what is required to make its fulfillment possible. D. Effort. Whoever gets the job has earned it. assuming that the employer's choice is rational, this benefit is due to his own merit, not to the sacrifice of the other man who never had any vested right to that job. The failure to give to a man what had never belonged to him can hardly be described as sacrificing his interests. All of the above discussion applies only to the relationships among rational men and only to a free society. In a free society, one does not have to deal with those who are irrational. One is free to avoid them. In a non-free society, no pursuit of any interests is possible to anyone. Nothing is possible but gradual and general destruction. August 1962, The Conflicts of Men's Interests, The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand.
We're gonna need something else. You're gonna have to rebuild the car.
These are fools that men adore, both their gods and their men are fools. 12 come forth, O children, under the stars, and take your fill of love. 13, I am above you, and in you, my ecstasy is in yours. My joy is to see your joy. 14, above the gem, the yours, the lake and splendor of no wave. She is to see your joy. The gem azure is the naked splendor of new light. She bends in ecstasy to kiss the secret ardors of Hades. The winged globe, the starry blue, her mine, O Enkelf Nachon Su. My joy is to see your joy.
The manifestation of you, the unfurling of the company of heaven. Every man and every woman is a star. For every number is infinite, there is no difference. Help me, oh warrior Lord of thieves, in my unveiling before the children of men. 6 feet out deep, my secret center, my heart and my heart. 7, behold.